We have Ikonia here with us. What's up? What's up?
Hello, everybody. This is Alex, co-founder and core developer at Ikonia Labs. Excited to talk to the community today about the DeFi payments track at Hack Holland.
Amazing. We also have Bones and Suji with us. Also, Kartik E, Joshua, Serbi, and Chef. If y'all want to introduce yourselves.
Maybe I'll go first. First of all, bang on with my name. So nice to meet you guys. I'm Surbi. I'm the head of business development at Kana Labs. And super excited for it today. And you do have good vocals, to be fair.
Thank you so much. Oh, I think you're the first person on the planet to have ever told me that.
That's because you've not heard me sing.
I think we need to have a Move Monday karaoke edition. This is what's going to happen at some point in the future. Who else we got? Don't be shy, folks.
Okay. I'll go next. I'm head of community at Tsunami. I'm Suju. Thanks for having us as well.
And I'm Bones. I'm a core contributor to Tsunami Finance. We are a margin trading platform on the Aptos network. We just went to mainnet, so definitely check it out. But we'll talk more about that soon.
Hey everyone, I'm Joshua. I'm head of growth for Aries Markets. Echoing the same thoughts as everyone. Thanks for having us all on. Some amazing projects.
Hi, this is Karthik. I am the co-founder of Lab.
Kartik, you may want to get a new microphone device. You came in pretty blurry there.
How is it now?
It's about the same, my friend.
Okay, I'll get that.
So he was saying he's the CEO and co-founder of Kana Labs, guys, for those of you who did not hear. And his name is Karthik.
Awesome. Happy to have you folks here. Think we also have Ye from Merkle Trade.
Yeah, hi. This is Ye from Merkle Trade. I'm one of the co-founders at Merkle Trade, and thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be finally invited to be chatting with guys on Move Monday. So I'm very excited.
Happy to have you here, and I think we also got a nice chef from PancakeSwap, Chef Maroon.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Chef Maroon here at PancakeSwap. I do BD at PancakeSwap, just a bit of everything, although my current focus is on Aptos and Ethereum. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you, Vader. Thanks for joining us. I mean, Chef Maroon.
I feel like I'm about to be told some secrets about Reagan.
Amazing jokes. Glad to have you here, Max. All right, cool. I think that does our intros. Just to kick this off, I think we should circle back and remind everybody that we are going to be doing our hackathon in Amsterdam, Netherlands, coming up soon. We'll be there, what is that, June 5th through the 7th. Make sure you've gone ahead and registered if you plan on attending. I think we're wrapping up signups today. I'm looking at nodding heads, so I'm not talking too much BS at this point in time, but it's still early. And so today's goal is just talk about DeFi. We can talk about DeFi coming up for the Holland event. I think there's some notes in front of me. Yeah, so we have a 60K in prizes for the DeFi track at the Holland Hack. And we just love to talk about what's going on in that space, specifically what's being built and what infrastructure might be missing with inside the Aptos space to help kind of build folks that are building this space to scale out. And so kind of just open up the floor for folks to, share their thoughts on what we'd like to see coming out of Hack Holland.
I'll start. Thanks, David. So Alex again from Ikonia Labs. So we're building an on-chain order book for Aptos. We're fully audited, live on testnet, and just gearing up for mainnet launch with some multi-sig tooling that we are enthusiastically PRing into Aptos Core right now. And one thing that we'd like to see definitely at this hackathon is perpetual futures. So this is something in DeFi that kind of uses multiple Lego building blocks, if you will, from different elements in the ecosystem. And to do this, you need a price discovery settlement engine like Icania, the order book, and then you need an Oracle reference price. And we actually did a recent space on here on Twitter about with Pith, who provides that kind of price feed data. And this provides a lot of the sort of essential primitives that you need to build a perpetual futures exchange, which is significant driver of volume across DeFi in multiple ecosystems, and something we'd like to see on Aptos. And that's why we're sponsoring the DeFi track at the hackathon, which carries $60,000 in total prizes, and encouraging people to build on top of Icania, in particular with perpetual futures, but also with any other kind of exotic sort of trading interfaces that people come up with. We built our platform to support margining, derivatives, and there's all kinds of exotic use cases that we haven't seen yet, and we'd like to just see people get creative.
Awesome. Anybody else got some thoughts? I think Bones has his hands up. Go for it, Bones.
Yeah, hi. We're excited to go to the Aptos Holland hackathon. The Tsunami Finance team will be participating. We're actually going to be showcasing our Pith Oracle integration. Tsunami is a margin trading platform in the ecosystem. We're not currently built on top of any order book or anything like that. It's all Oracle based. Very similar model to GMX, except we do a couple things, I'd argue, quite better, like price liquidity, have multiple baskets of goods, do a lot of NFT-fi integration, stuff like that. I know we talk a lot on Noki, all of our teams, but definitely should have you and MuteDev talk more, because, I think that's what we're going to be highlighting there is probably our Pith integration.
Awesome. A quick question on oracles. With the recent reduction in gas prices, I'm curious to see if anybody's seen oracles make a movement towards actually doing push updates and how that might impact your various different services.
Yeah, I'm not overly technical enough probably to be able to dissect it in that regard. But I will say that, the only reason that Tsunami's on mainnet now is because of the updates to the gas schedule. It wasn't going to be feasible for us to run the protocol before. Now we can, and that's pretty fantastic. I know that the Switchboard team is pretty happy with all the updates, and I'm sure that the Pith team is as well. It's been great having the Aptos core team just being able to work with all the on-chain builders, being able to take feedback and really push for that early. Because that allows a lot of these awesome DeFi protocols doing a lot of stuff, with derivatives trading to come to mainnet. So, yeah.
Yeah, very happy to have you guys on mainnet. Hopefully everybody's been having fun in the closed mainnet launch that you guys have so far. What are your plans for opening up longer? Maybe you could talk briefly about that.
Yeah. We opened up actually Tuesday. So on Tuesday we opened up. We're on open mainnet for everybody. It is the public alpha is what we're calling it, season 0. We have these cool incentives for anybody who participates in the protocol, whether you're an LP or a trader. So basically you can earn rewards no matter what you do. As long as you're interacting with the protocol in a positive way, it will, basically give you points for our leaderboard. I can't say anything about, what exactly the token incentives might be, but there might be incentives for those who participate in our season 0 and climb the leaderboard. So yeah, that's all live. If anybody has any questions, feel free to hit me up. Suju as well. We're always willing to help anybody who wants to participate in Tsunami Finance.
Very cool. So I'm going to throw it out there. Subri, do you want to say anything about what Kana Labs is hoping to see?
So I'm glad you brought the question back up, because I was waiting for Karthik to turn on, but I think it just didn't happen. So I think for us, at Kana, we are really trying to see that how we can bring in the next wave of users, especially Web 2. Particularly, like all of us, not all, but majority of us hail from India. And we've seen there's a large market who's really interested in crypto, but due to the regulations, they trade more of NFTs. So what we would really like to see is there's some intersection between DeFi and gaming. Let's say a DeFi option wall, which could be available within a gaming system. Or perhaps the other side would be if there's a way that there are gaming platforms which allow for the benefits of Web3 on Web2, such as let's say a Web3 version of Candy Crush, which could actually be available. And this would allow for us a lot of inclusivity with respect to people from across the globe to be able to actually enjoy the game. And even kids, right, like from other countries who might not have a lot of net worth, they could at least win something fairly, if that makes sense. So this is what we would personally like to see, and see something which is innovative and fun and can bring in the next billion users, yeah?
Sir?
Yeah, I really love game integration into DeFi. I mean, I don't know if you guys had a chance to play out Witch and the Werewolf, or is it Werewolf and the Witch, but we had a heck of a lot of fun with that. And I think more in line with that gets more immersive is going to be really great for the ecosystem.
Serbia.
Yes. Sorry.
Serbia, I know on a couple of our calls, we've talked about structured options vaults, and I think it's interesting to hear you talk about that in a gaming context. And I think that a big unlock that can come with this next wave of DeFi adoption is certainly baking in these DeFi primitives straight into in-game financial situations. So, this reminds me of how I think the Daffy behind Mango Markets got started basically by trying to make markets on some kind of in-game trading venue with one of those voxel games. I think it might have been Minecraft or something. And I think that the more that people want to trade skins or different swords or items or whatever, I think that there's more of an opportunity to actually do legitimate price discovery on these things using traditional financial tools and instruments like an order book based market, for example. And I think there's also some interesting opportunities for if there was going to be for fractionalizing NFTs. I think this has useful implications for in-game assets. For example, if there's some kind of giant castle or something that any one person would really own in the game, but maybe a guild of people can come together and use their special gold coins from that game to buy it or own it outright, and then do maybe even governance on it if they want to renovate it or something. I think there's a lot of opportunity to operate inside these games using DeFi tools that are actually brought straight in rather than replicated in some kind of half-hearted fashion that has typically happened with Web2 implementations of gaming.
I would second that. I'm so sorry for cutting in short. And I'll keep short after this. But yeah, just imagine a world, right? Wherein you can. So I used to play a lot of PS4, PS3 back in the day, and imagine if I had the chance to put my NFT skins or anything in a vault, and that keeps earning money. I don't care what chain it is on. I continue building on. And then by the end of it, I'm playing the game, engaging in it, as well as earning the tokens. I can stake it, do whatever within the game, or probably a metaverse. So that's a very long-term vision. And I think it would be pretty sick if we could build something on those lines. So anyone who's interested, Econolabs and Canalabs, please hit us up.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, go for it.
Yeah, you mentioned, Serbia, about putting NFTs in vaults, and I think this is one thing that we've started to see lately a little bit, at least the inklings of it, is NFT automated market makers. And I think that this is a way for people to, for example, earn yield on their NFTs, and I think also a way to smooth out some price volatility in the market. I think that these typically rest on some kind of assumption of fungibility. If if a bunch of different NFTs are from the same mint collection, that they are assumed to be somewhat interchangeable. But I think that the AMM for the NFTs is one of these earlier attempts at the NFT-fi that I think is only going to get more sophisticated as time goes on. And I think a big part of this is the fact that there needs to be low gas fees. There needs to be infrastructure that can support just minting a whole bunch of NFTs in one place. And I think really just a public database system in the way that Aptos is providing it, that I think allows some of these more exotic sort of experiments to be played out.
100%.
So just kind of continuing on from there, Joshua from Aries Market, you want to share some of your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So just to give you my sort of 2-minute elevator pitch of what Aries are trying to do. So basically, we're a comprehensive DeFi suite on Aptos that allows you to sort of bundle all essential features into a single margin account. So, users can earn interest on the deposits, leverage shared liquidity pools, yada yada. There's a lot you can do using Aries. And yeah, I think what we're really excited for is we like money Legos a lot. So composable DeFi as always. Having talked to some of the other guys at Aries about this, are very excited about sort of yield strategies. So things such as lending optimizers, leverage yield farming, but also some things that are perhaps a bit more specific to Aries. Things like arbitrage bots and liquidators. But yeah.
On that note of money Legos and derivative instruments, I was wondering maybe Joshua, if you could comment on, you talked about leveraged yield farming. I was wondering if maybe you could comment on like delta neutral strategies, or even, for example, like delta neutral stablecoins. I think UXD did this on Solana. It was an interesting model. I don't know if we've seen any attempts like this yet on Aptos, but I think that a lot of the market sort of structures that are emerging right now are going to facilitate things like this. And it'd be interesting to see what kind of stable coins that are, more algorithmic based end up commanding certain types of market share, especially as derivatives markets start to mature on Aptos.
I'm probably not the person to answer that. I'm not highly technical, but definitely open if anyone wants to message on the Twitter account, we'll get that answered.
Cool. I think I saw Bones put a thumbs up. Maybe he could talk a little bit more about UXD, and maybe if we'll see something like that on Aptos.
Yeah, I don't know. I know a bunch of guys who have worked on stablecoins. I know Kinto and all those guys over there at UXD. Hung out with Zor recently, and yeah, it'd be interesting if they even built a product over here. But just like delta neutral strategies in general, like coming from a trader. Like funding rate ARB, I'm excited for like Tsunami to introduce funding rates, and excited for protocols like Merkle, things like Blackwing, right? And then whatever gets built on top of Laconia too, right? To come to mainnet, there'll be a lot of interesting strategies to be done between all of them. Obviously, like spot ARB can already be done in the ecosystem. We were doing some spot ARB between Tsunami and obviously Hippo, the aggregator. Actually this last week. I have no clue when we'll introduce some kind of like, structured vault where people can participate in these strategies and earn some yield or something like that. But, I know somebody will do stuff like that. Yeah, it's always a fun time when all those kinds of products get introduced to a DeFi ecosystem.
Yeah, I think a lot of the exciting part about DeFi rollout on any sort of like new L1, that especially ones that like unlock new technical sort of features, is that there's a lot bigger of a design space for people to build new things. And I think that Solana kind of showed this in a big way with a lot of the technical improvements that it provided. I think Aptos does the same thing by keeping gas costs low, providing this form of optimistic concurrency that allows Akane, for example, to parallelize all its markets. And I think that one interesting part too is this hybridization between NFTs and DeFi. And I actually remember talking with I forget which protocol was, but someone was talking about how it would be nice to see an NFT like perpetuals or some kind of NFT shorting protocol, because I think that a big part of like the fun with NFTs is everyone is kind of like hyping things up, and then they like try and get out a lot of times, and then everyone kind of like moves on to the next. And I think that having a way to like not just guess the top but also guess the bottom, I think would give a lot of the NFT speculators more exposure to the kinds of instruments that they'd like to see, and what I think a lot of the sort of trading mentality around NFTs is based on.
Yeah, I think it might have been even me and Chad that you had some of these conversations with. I know we've had some of these conversations with your team about this. I actually worked on like an NFT perps protocol previously to working in the Aptos ecosystem. And yeah, it's just like, from a risk perspective, right? It's just extremely dangerous, right? Like just looking at, for example, the Aptos ecosystem projects, all of them are just like fairly small, like low market cap, to where, somebody could do essentially what, like Eisenberg did to Mango Markets, right? Take out a, large long on a derivatives protocol, offering a market for, some of these NFTs. And then because the NFT is, like a $700,000 market cap or less, they'll probably be able to manipulate the price quite easily, drain the protocol, go short, dump it back down. It just becomes a mess, right? The only thing you could really do is offer, perps of probably like the largest NFTs in existence. I mean, there's still some risk there, but things like punks, Bored Apes. We're even seeing like a lot of NFT-fi protocols like Borrowland protocols like Blur offer Miladies and some smaller collections. But yeah, it's just anytime we talk about illiquid and then like low market cap markets, offering some kind of derivative product around them becomes just a risk nightmare. Somebody with not that much capital, right? I'm talking probably 50 to 100 grand, could seriously manipulate the market and, destroy whatever derivative protocol is participating in that. But yeah.
Speaking of actually, what do you think about the Blur's approach, like the buy now, pay later, and their derivatives for NFTs?
I think it's good. I mean, everything Blur does is interesting, right? Like, Blur was I would say probably the first ones that really blew up this season's kind of thing, right? And Tsunami's doing one. I know Topaz is as well. And basically it's just incentivization of using the protocol, right? And then now they're doing all these different things with like their Borrowland and derivative type stuff. I think it's probably not going to end well. But for now it's great. And it's great for them as a protocol. They're constantly pushing boundaries and finding ways to be relevant. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any other input on any of this. I don't want to hog the space.
I would say not in particularly with respect to Blur or NFT trading. I would just say with derivatives, I think Bones, a lot of things might change based on if there is capital efficiency in the underlying market, right? Or also how you trade derivatives. So despite the fact that even the liquidity might be low, it is a possibility that if there's capital efficiency achieved, it does not impact the market as much. For example, let's say if there is enough volume in parallel markets, and you build a protocol around an Aptos, and you have futures on it, let's say Bitcoin futures on Aptos, right? Something in the wrap manner, and it takes a proxy of it. Till the time there's capital efficiency, that means you won't have to put like more than 100% of your collateral, which a few protocols are actually doing, which I'm really excited about. That is another thing I would love to see on Aptos post-trade. That could actually reduce the risk, yeah, on a very serious note. And I think that's what is required in all these things, like from all our protocols which we're building on, they could really, really generate a lot of safe reward revenue system without blowing up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that a big part of this is, like you said, keeping markets efficient. And I would add that a large part of this in on-chain finance involves having really just a distributed computer that can actually keep up with any of the transactions that are coming in. I think obviously for illiquid markets on a fast chain, that's a different question. But even until now, a large part of the challenge has just been, how many transactions per second can actually go through, and how much does gas cost? Is gas prohibitively expensive such that people aren't going to like trade near the spread, and there's going to be some kind of wild divergence between the best bid and offer. I think these are the kinds of questions that are sort of getting answered now with chains like Aptos, and I think that that might be a good segue to talk about, I think, one of the questions we had sort of lined up for this week, which was the infrastructure that teams are using that are particular for their project, and how it lets them do things that maybe couldn't do elsewhere. And I think maybe I'll start with Akania, and I'll talk about how when we getting asked earlier on in this project why we're building on Aptos, in short, the answer is that we couldn't do it anywhere else. And I think that a large part of it is that Aptos is built on this optimistic concurrency model with dynamic memory allocation. And what this really means, even though this might sound like technical jargon, is really it means that we can build an autonomous order book that lets anyone trade in parallel. So it can scale, and it's permissionless, and you don't need to have these sort of external nodes pinging things along like you do on other order books that require a so-called crank. So I think that's like one form of infrastructure. And also I would add too that with this emerging new multi-sig V2 standard, that's, the contracts are live on mainnet. I think there's still some tooling that could be coming up around it that where Akane Labs are working on, and I think could be useful for other people to deploy. But I think that provides a lot of security. And I know with like recent ledger integrations, for example, there's a lot more security for protocol deployments that I think is going to be really helpful for projects like Akane. And I guess I'd also like to hear what other protocols, what kind of infrastructure and what tooling that's particular to Aptos that they've used that have been, feature unlocks for their respective projects.
No takers on that one?
I know Karthik had his views. I don't know if his mic is back on. Karthik, are you there?
He may not be there.
I think we've lost his voice. Karthik, now we can't hear you at all.
Well, that's all right. We can keep this, I think, a little less technical focus then, since we're missing Karthik.
I guess the one thing that's always been on my mind is there's two things that I actually like to talk about. One is with these faster chains, nobody's bringing up the phrase MEV and what the impact that is on these DeFi applications, because we know a lot of existing chains, especially the slower ones, are heavily impacted, where MEV ends up usurping a lot of the value that might otherwise go to those that are actively participating in the markets. And so I'm kind of curious to hear what your thoughts are on the implications on Aptos as we, approach thousands of TPS with, really fast latencies, and how you're thinking about protecting your protocols from that, and even making requests upstream to the foundation on things that we should be considering, or they should be considering, to kind of better protect the ecosystems.
On the topic of MEV, I actually listened to a pretty interesting episode of the Chopping Block podcast last night that was talking about this, and it was MEV within the context of the new sort of BRC20 tokens that are emerging on Bitcoin. So basically, the background is you can now shove arbitrary data into a Bitcoin transaction because of the Taproot upgrade, and people are now using this to actually try and build these sort of like inklings of DeFi. And the problem is that with a block time of 10 minutes, the eventual sort of outcome is that you now have 10 minutes to simulate a whole bunch of front running and back running transactions, 10 minutes to do, an auction to the different searchers and block builders. And this is an eternity in computing. You contrast this with Ethereum, which only has, I think, like 12 or 13 second blocks. And that's still, long enough window of time for all these different infrastructures to build up. Like Flashbots has all these relays, these different auctions. It's so complex. And I think at this point, they even started trying to build their own side chain now to be as a result of some of the sort of, incentives here. And I think that a large sort of assumption in this whole model is that there's a ton of time between blocks. And it makes it feasible to run a side auction on who gets to make the block. It makes it possible to simulate all these transactions and front run them. And I think that one of the biggest sort of ways to deter against this is really to just have more throughput and to push more data through the system. And that makes it less feasible for people to communicate in these sort of side channels. And it makes it, I think, less feasible to do these sort of front running and back running transactions. I think that there might always be some kind of advantage for bulking up order flow, but I don't know if it's going to be as extreme as we've seen in the likes on Ethereum, for example, where you have 12 or 13 seconds to do this and you have a gigantic public mempool. Curious to hear, I guess, what others' thoughts on are as well.
I, for one, am happy to live in a world where we do not have MEV.
Yeah, it was maybe Bones, you could comment on some of your experiences from other protocols if you've seen, or other ones I know you've worked in. Some of your experiences with MEV and maybe how it affected users and protocol ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think MEV's really evolved too. MEV, a lot of times in its simplest form and like kind of most latent terms, it's just really arbitrage, algorithmic arbitrage on chain, right? So yeah, MEV can affect ecosystems in tons of different ways. Yeah, like especially during the whole meme coin thing. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with Jared from Subway.eth and that whole thing, and all the
Intimately.
sandwiching. Are you, Max?
Yes, intimately familiar with Jared. In fact, there was so I was also active in all the meme coin fun over the past couple of weeks, and I had a lot of fun discussions internally about MEV, and Jared from Subway's name came up a lot from my mouth because he made a lot of money.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, anytime there's a mempool or something like that, it's pretty easy for people to do these kinds of things, even if there's not, right? Like MEV can be like achieved in tons of different ways on different chains. There's not like an exact way to define how you can achieve MEV, but yeah, like what Jared from Subway was doing, sandwiching, just people with high amounts of slippage on chain. Yeah, that's definitely a form of that. So that's one way users can be affected, and it's not fun when you see that, but it eventually becomes a meme, kind of in the way that we're discussing when you keep seeing the same like ENS name pop up on chain, sandwiching users. But yeah, I know a lot of different people that participate in it, right? I know all the Jito guys used to work at MarginFi. They have like Margin Labs and they do MEV. And yeah, I have no clue if anybody's actually participating in any strategies like this on Aptos. That's not really who I've been talking to in the Aptos ecosystem, but I would love to hear if anybody has. I remember a while ago, right? I think it was pre-mainnet, that some of the usual suspects from ETH and like Solana that you'll see across forums, right? They were asking in the Aptos Discord kind of about some of these things. I'm pretty sure Aptos has mempools, right? So I would love to hear from some of you technical guys kind of about that. If any of you guys have participated or tried or know anybody who has.
I haven't participated or know anyone who directly has participated in MEV on Aptos. I actually hadn't heard of this Jerry from Subway guy, which I think is kind of a fitting name considering he was doing sandwich attacks. But I would as far as MEV goes, and I think NFTs and DeFi for me are sort of different mental models. I'm living in sort of DeFi land over with Akania Labs, and to me a lot of it is about like transaction sequencing, and the potential front running that people are seeing, like in particular with Uniswap on Ethereum. But when it comes to something like an NFT, I think you introduce this really sort of problematic step change event where something goes from like not existing to existing all of a sudden. And I think it's similar to the kinds of things you might see like when a market first opens, like even in the NASDAQ in real life, or in just some like new AMM on chain somewhere. I think that these sort of step change events are really tricky. And that, I mean, ultimately can even come down to not even just like MEV, but who has, the most powerful server that can spam transactions as fast as possible. I know this was a big problem on Solana, that sometimes you had to send a transaction like 10 times before we get through, just because there wasn't any sort of mitigant for that at the sort of API level. And I think that if you are running a node yourself, that obviously gives you more power to sort of include your transactions for minting an NFT first or whatever, or buying the first one. I think this raises a really interesting question though about like, is there really a way to prevent those who sequence transactions from sequencing them in their favor, whether from doing it kind of like manually themselves and constructing them or auctioning off space? I think that as far as these sort of high criticality events go, that might be a trickier one to mitigate long term. But I think in a steady state, technical improvements, in particular higher volume, are a really effective way to get rid of this, because it just diminishes the window of time.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's something that we definitely need to be on the lookout for. I don't think we've got much data on our end on MEV, but obviously something that we're interested in better understanding how the ecosystem feels about it, and definitely if people see it, would love to have people shouting it out so that we can, study it together and come up with a consensus on the right way to make sure that Aptos is a great environment for folks like yourselves to be safe and enjoy building in the space. Bones has his hand up.
Yeah, I want to ask all you guys. Do you guys believe in the concept of ethical MEV? Right, like this was a big conversation on Ethereum and Solana for a while, right? Like, can ethical MEV be achieved? What is that? And then I guess too, encompassing that question is what's Aptos's lab's stance on that, right? Are they going to be just super against these kinds of opportunities and when searchers really come in and start exploiting them? Or are they going to be more so trying to work with them and try to find a ethical route for the MEV situation?
Well, I remember talking to a couple of folks that look at MEV as also an opportunity just to go in and fix on-chain state. So basically identifying cases where, the leverages are out of bound and, we need to rectify these types of situations. And so anybody could theoretically be running these operations on chain to kind of balance out DeFi operations, but having the validators kind of observing on-chain state and kind of balancing it could be perceived as a MEV depending on how you define MEV. And so in some cases, I think these could be for the benefit of the ecosystem. But I think on the other hand, when we talk about, Jared getting fatter on his sandwiches, then that's not so great.
100%. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And yeah, happy to hear. But Aconia, yeah, sorry.
I think that the interesting part about the ethical MEV question is that when smart contract chains first came around, that people's mental model was this there's this computer in the sky and you pay to use the computer and then your time is over and the next person goes, and it's very timely and it's orderly and it's almost this kumbaya approach. And I think that the more you get into the weeds of blockchains, the more you realize there are certain kinds of arms races playing out that are almost intrinsic to the way the system is designed, and that the system is not ultimately just a kumbaya computer in the sky. It's like a battle for latency and to get transactions included, and you're fighting for block space. And I think that when you take this approach and I think view it as what it enables, it makes it much more clear what the sort of end state is and what kinds of competitions people are going to be having. And I think that enables people to actually design things that mitigate these kinds of effects when you realize that what you're really building is an adversarial system. And I think that the whole adversarial and mutually distrusting nature of this kind of cooperation system is pretty intrinsic to the way blockchains are built. I mean, the whole idea is it's a trustless peer-to-peer system. And so if you don't trust anyone, you have to sort of have this idea that everyone is sort of vying for transaction inclusion for the best price possible. And I think that enables more sort of dynamics like we have seen in the past with MEV, that it's basically an auction for order flow. And I think that this is probably going to be some kind of end state. In the early days of DeFi, I don't know how much demand there will be, but I think that as adoption grows, I think the ability to capture the best price and to bulk up transactions in a certain way to favorable actors, I think is going to become more developed. And I think that that's probably just the natural sort of extrapolation of any of these. I think the big part is that you can mitigate, I think, the balance between what is happening sort of off-chain or pre-chain versus what is happening on-chain by just railing throughput to the extreme in the way that Aptos is doing right now. But as far as someone having the power to sequence in transactions, if they want to make money sequences those transactions, then ultimately I think it's just going to come down to payment for order flow, and there will probably just be a market there. But I don't know if that necessarily has to take the place of these kind of sandwich attack, malicious behaviors that we're seeing that are just so destructive. I think that it ultimately will probably just taper down to something more manageable.
I was, Alex, on the same note, I was about to say the auction mechanism is something which I've heard quite a lot. This reminds me of early day of HFT trading as well, right? at the beginning when all the trading prop sizes in 2000s earlier, when that laid down the pipelines to basically reach the exchange the fastest. So from my perspective, I think the next phase could be, of course, the auction mechanism where you could incorporate based on the protocol itself. Or there could be a hybrid version because people wouldn't let go of it so quickly. So it could be that there'll be few players amongst whom it'll be distributed well, and they'll have the leverage, and then comes the rest of the people. And Alex, have you ever rapped in your life? Because you would be good at it. I'm not joking. You were very clear, you were excited, and you spoke so fast. It was brilliant.
Thank you. That's flattering. But you asked if I've ever what in my life? It sounded like you said ran.
Rapped like Eminem, Drake. I loved it.
I've tried.
Your enunciation was perfect. Your enunciation was perfect despite being extremely fast.
I've tried. I'll drop a couple bars here with my friends or family and embarrass myself every once in a while. But yeah, just like Max's $3.99 jokes, those are a little more expensive than for you over here. I'm maybe on the topic of the upcoming hackathon. I think that with registration coming to a close pretty soon, maybe now would be a good time to hear some tips. Maybe in particular from Merkle on like how they their experience at the last hackathon and maybe what kind of advice they could give to other people who are looking to build at this upcoming one.
So from the experience of participating in the last hackathon, I think the most important thing is that you gotta bring the idea that leverages the strength of the Aptos blockchain. The obviously the fast speed, low latency, the fast time to finality, and also the low gas fee, and also I would personally be looking forward to seeing more projects that can bring more people into the ecosystem, that something that can appeal to the masses, and also I'd be excited if you can see any new ideas on how we can ease the onboarding process, because that's one of the common obstacles that we have. And as for the advice for the participants, just bring good ideas, and the Aptos ecosystem is probably the most welcoming and friendly environment that I have ever seen since I have started building on a Web3 space. And the Aptos people from Aptos Labs has been extremely supportive since the day one, and so they will guide you and support you on any technical difficulties and just in general. So yeah.
Awesome. I think it's really helpful to hear you talk about, showcasing all the unlocks of Aptos and then also making it easy for people to join the Web3 space. I'll totally echo what you said about, the Aptos Labs being supportive and the community being very welcoming. I've had the same experience for the last, year or so I've been building here. I think, I know Bones has some experience from hackathons, but I think he may have just left. If that is the case, is there any other of our sort of main speakers who'd like to talk maybe about their past experience at hackathons or just like getting into Aptos in general?
Yeah, I can sort of talk about this a little bit. So sort of in my background, I sort of helped with growth at Wormhole, and as part of that, I was lucky enough to be at the pit helping out as well, which is Jump's Hacker House. I think for me, some of the experience that I found in hacker houses is, and the advice that I would sort of give builders is just sort of build something you're proud of. I think often people try to build something that's like overly perfect, and that can sort of hinder creativity quite a lot. So build something you're like super proud of. Make advantage of everyone who's in the hacker house. So you can see, for example, like the side events that are going to be going on at Hack Holland. So you can really make some like great contacts in the space as well. And yeah, just like have a good time as much as anything.
Love it. I also love to hear you talk about, leveraging the people and making those connections in person. That's why Connie Labs is going to be making a big showing with a lot of members of our team in Holland, because we're excited to meet everybody there and form those new partnerships to grow this ecosystem together in a really personal way. I think maybe since we're getting to the end, maybe David or Max, you could comment on anything DeFi related to be looking out for coming down the pipeline. I know that there's like the Coin V2 standard that's in the works, and maybe you could comment on that or any other resources or tooling that we should be expecting in the next coming weeks and months.
I mean, Alex, you know all the details. You did a great job, but we've got this thing that we're calling fungible asset. So we're going to move away from the terminology coin because it's overloaded, it's confusing, and then we keep getting feedback from our folks like Austin saying people can't tell the difference between what a coin and a token is. And so we're moving towards the terminology fungible asset, and that's also going to be the representation of what we've called Coin V2, which is more of an object-based framework for this that really empowers developers to get a tighter fine-grained control over the evolution of their on-chain assets, which I think will be really amazing and powerful. We're exploring how to make that somewhat interoperable with existing standard. We should have some docs out pretty soon within the next week or so. And we'd love to have the ecosystem actually starting to comment on there so we can figure out what this looks like from an ecosystem perspective so that we don't end up, like, the goal is to make it work for existing DeFi projects out there and make sure that we have like a nice clean evolution here, and figuring out what does this mean? Does this mean we leverage smart data structures like many of you have been building, or do we explore more of an object-based model that we've been kind of pushing in there? What is the interesting balance in that space? So it's green fields, really just a great opportunity to kind of come together and explore in that space. I think the other things that we're working on that might be interesting are we're going through a refresh of our indexer and APIs to just be more accessible, more useful. So if you've been using them, feel free to give feedback on things that you feel like aren't working quite well. You can hit us up on GitHub issues, on Aptos core, under the Aptos Labs repository and whatnot. And so anything out there, or you can hit me up on DMs. We'd love to give feedback in that space. But the key thing here is just to really make it seamless to get into this space and start building really cool stuff. Actually, one of the things that I'd love to ask the community for is, you guys spoke a lot, really beautifully about all the different things that are possible in DeFi. But I'll be honest with you, I'm like a total DeFi noob. I probably lost more APT inside that space by trying to figure out how things work. It'd be really great just to have onboarding guides to like kicking ass, part of my language, in Aptos and being successful and figuring out how to really grow general awareness in the space. And so that's actually just a request out to you folks. And I think just keep sharing any ideas and thoughts. Hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll have more and more oracles starting to push their feeds onto Aptos. So that's a big hope of mine, because I think that's really going to help grow the DeFi ecosystem substantially. And so I think with that, we could also open up the floor for anybody that wants to come up and ask any questions to any of us. And oh, wow, Shamrock is already at the head of the queue. So we'll bring him on up. But before we do that, I just want to do a quick call out. So we're actually going to have open registration for Hack Holland for another week. So please make sure that if you, your friends, your teammates are attending, that you do as well. Even if you're an ecosystem builder and you've got a reputation, just make sure you register so that we can make sure we reserve a spot in the seat for you. We'd love to have you there. And without further ado, let's give the floor to Shamrock.
Let's go. Hello, everyone. Move Monday. It's always glad to be here. And first of all, wanted to say that, David, you're an amazing co-host. I was laughing so hard at the beginning of the space. So, yeah, keep it coming. And actually, I wanted just to say thanks to all the amazing speakers here and to follow up the thing about being like DeFi noob, because as you all know or don't, I will mention it once again. I'm a totally not a technical guy. I'm more into all the creative stuff. And yeah, obviously, for people like me, it's really hard when you open any DeFi platform and you see like all this stuff. Even if UI is pretty simple, there should be some like totally noob guide for all of us. I'm not saying about something like click one button and become rich or something like that, but yeah, obviously there should be some really like, how to say it, like DeFi 101 for especially for Aptos. So it will obviously help to onboard more people into these type of finance, especially the main thing about explaining that it's actually you control your own money. It's not about banks, it's not about governments or something like that. So yeah, this obviously will help. So any thoughts on this?
Hi, Shamrock. Nice to meet you. I think maybe in a week or two you will be able to access Kana Labs website and also our partner protocols, where you'll be able to actually use anything in English version, not in DeFi version. So we are working on that, and we'd be very, very, very keen to hear your thoughts and feedback so we can incorporate it and make it better. That's our entire fundamental ideal or vision, to make it as simple so that, like, my father, who's like 63 and adamant and ignorant, who can do net banking, can access Web3 as well and see that how it has a lot of benefits. And not only for them, but anybody across, even for kids who are learning right now and old grannies who are probably using net banking. And just a fun thing, like, I was in Seoul, so I've been visiting there a lot because Korean market is incredible. And I saw so many 70-year-old males sitting in these cafes where they would pen down the token price very cutely and trade. So, there is a big market out there which we can focus on and actually build it the right way in inclusivity. And I've highlighted this factor a lot, the inclusivity, because this is one of the reasons I personally love Aptos, apart from the technical benefits. So that's from me, and I'm sorry that Karthik could not speak because he would have been the technical guy.
Yeah, maybe.
No, it's okay, actually. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kendall. I just want to chime in and say that via Paxos, what we do, a large part of our user base is actually retail users. So we do value feedback like this in terms of how we can further optimize our UI UX, or whether it's in terms of making our docs as clear as possible for users who might be new to DeFi or new to finance in general, and we try to make sure that anyone or everyone with new or with experience can use our platform the same way as any other experienced users. So yeah, just want to let the community know if there's anything that's unclear or if you think we can do better on UI, UX, or our explanation on blogs. Feel free to drop me a DM or just let us know, and we'll do our best to make it as easy and seamless as possible.
This was just an amazing example of how Optimus Prime should have sounded.
I couldn't have said it better myself. All right, we got 2 minutes left. Anybody else want to throw something else up there? Suju, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of contribute to the part of like onboarding the community as well as other builders. I think that Aptos has done a great job with that, especially in resources like the Discord. I've been able to find like an ample amount of information that I've needed personally as well as been able to direct users there as well. Even one of our devs needed help with something, and I kind of remembered seeing something in the dev channel in the Aptos server, and I was like, I think this might help you. And he was like, oh, that's exactly what I needed. So it's a great resource is to join the Aptos Discord. Definitely. The moderators there are actually super dope. Always willing to help. They're like 24/7. So that's a huge resource for myself, especially, but I know for others as well. So thanks for providing that for us.
I mean, you guys make it worthwhile. You know, I think just the community has been amazing. I get to tell a lot of folks about just like the evolution of it and how, you know, going back to March of last year when we launched our DevNet and how everybody just came across organically and spread it out from nowhere. And we've just kind of hung together through, you know, thick and thin over the past, you know, oh, wow, it's almost 13, 14 months. It's just been an incredible ride. And I look forward to as we continue to grow and get more awesome protocols, more applications, more users out there. This is only the beginning. And so with that, I'm going to call it a day and just wish everybody thank you so much for all your time. Looking forward to seeing many of you in Holland where we get to hack together, build together, and have fun together. Wish everybody a great rest of your week and talk to you later. Bye.
Happy Holland, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.